back on the record here. Is there anybody else that would like to speak to resolution number 2024-09? Okay, nobody here or in chambers. I would note that there was a proposed amendment that we make, as Vice Mayor Nex said.
Thank you. Yeah, proposed amendments in our lay down, and move to amend section 1 by deleting words tourism and marketing and inserting visitor and cultural facilities manager to read the contract to provide Kenai Visitor and Culture Center facility management services is awarded to the Kenai Chamber of Commerce and Visitor Center for the total amount of $145,200 annually for a period of 3 years beginning July 1st, 2024. Request unanimous consent.
A second.
Discussion on the motion. Unanimous consent was requested. Is there any objection? Seeing none, the motion is approved. We now have resolution number 2024-09 as amended before us. Bring it back to Council. Councilmember Dauphin.
I'd just like to move that I will be recusing myself from the vote on this due to the fact that I'm on the board of directors for the chamber that is currently being in operation. But I would like to be able to talk to the cultural center side of things when I do have a chance.
Yes. I'll defer that right now. You have the floor, Mr. Councilmember Dauphin.
As far as that goes, I would like to talk to the cultural center as far as being on the board for the chamber right now. We've been in the works of this, the cultural center, revamping it for over a year. The Kenaites have really stepped up on this to show the importance and showed a lot of interest in all these new artifacts. And currently they're just not out on display, and we just haven't had the staff to be able to get out there and do all the work that needs to happen in there. The Kenaites have been really integral in helping redevelop that area, and I know we just recently, the council just voted to help move on that oil platform to allow more room in that area. So I think it's moving forward in the right direction. So when you are considering these different options, I think you should really consider the importance of that cultural center and the ability to be able to utilize all the artifacts to their utmost potential. Just seeing the excitement from the Kenaites when they saw some of the artifacts that have been in storage for years, that we weren't even really aware of their importance and how important they were to them, would really ensure that we need to get these out and be able to show, because we don't have the room to show all of them at once, but to be able to have somebody be able to help rotate those out, I think would be a great importance, and to show the Kenaites support that we want to utilize their artifacts to be able to get out there to the community and show them off would be important too. So, that's it.
Thank you, Councilmember Dauphin. And with that, we'll bring it back to the remainder of council. Councilmember Basin, I see your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'm trying to understand here. So are we adding new employees? Is the ask for new employees or to change the employees that are currently there more hours to do the jobs? Can I get that clarified?
Acting City Manager Ross.
Councilor Baisden, I'm not sure if they're actually hiring or if they're adding hours to staff. I would probably defer to Springer on that. It is specifically for that coordinator, though.
Ms. Springer?
So on the, without amending it, we would not be adding, well, we are adding an additional staff, but it would not be 100% for just the visitor service side. I mean, just for the visitor service center. If we are talking about option A or B, we would be adding a 100% cultural center coordinator position.
Okay, thank you for
Did that answer your question, Councilmember Basin?
Yep, thank you for the clarification. And I would like to speak on the topic if I can.
Yes, go ahead.
So I would support an amendment to, if we're looking at maybe increasing a little bit, but I would be against adding any new employees at this time.
I didn't quite understand what you said there at the end, Councilmember Basin.
Yeah, my support would be for if we needed to add some additional hours or funding to help with the center, but not to add new employees.
Oh, I see. And so the current I guess what I understand, the current contract, Mr. Ross, was, or the previous contract that they're working on right now, how much was that annually?
Mayor, the contract that was approved last year, which was the last year of a series of contracts, was $119,056.
Thank you. And so there is a increase overall in the cost, the annual cost, but then when you look at, I think, A and B, options A and B, and that we got as a laydown, Mr. Basin, that said there was be a new position under option A, which would be adding moving the total contract to $157,160, would be 2 new 30-hour an administrative assistant and a cultural center coordinator, 30 hours, and then option B, which is a little less money, would be the same 2 new positions, only one would be 30 hours, the administrative assistant, and the other one would be 20 hours per week. Is that correct, Ms. Springer?
That is, but if you look, the majority of what the administrative assistant would be on the chamber side, which is why I've included the cost versus the ask, so you can see
Yeah.
based on what the administrative assistant would be doing, it would be primarily on the chamber side, whereas the cultural center coordinator would be 100% assigned to the visitor center.
Right. And I think he was asking about new employees there, so that's why I was just trying to get a beat on there. Yeah, they're not city employees, and I understand that. Yes, they're contract employees. Well, under this, since you contract to manage the facility, they would be your employees, not our employees. All right, going back, open up to discussion. Comments from council? Vice Mayor, next then.
Thank you. Laydowns are always difficult when you don't have time to think about them in advance, and I've got A's, B's, and in my packet I've got 1, 2, 3s, and the numbers are different. So but I understand what you want to do with the cultural coordinator, and so unless I'm going to go back to what I have in the packet from administration, and we have option 1, option 2, and option 3, and I'm going to move option 2, and we can discuss it. How's that? And if we want to amend it further, we can do that also, which is just fine. Option 2, I'll just make the motion, and then we'll go through it. How about that? I move to amend Resolution 2024-09, Section 1, by amending the contractual amount from $145,200 to $152,480.
That's second that.
I'll second.
Discussion on the motion?
And it's maybe not for me to defend the dollar amount exactly. I mean, it's an increase of what, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, and it's for the cultural position for 20 hours. And it sounded like, from what I gathered earlier, that 20 hours person would be easy to get, as the 30 would also. And maybe it's something we want to increase in the future, but maybe that's a good place to start. That's just how I'm looking at it, but I was wondering if council has any suggestions on that.
I guess just for clarification purposes, maybe for the city clerk or attorney, do we need to add the reason for the increase for the extra 20 hour per week for the cultural center coordinator, or do we just, because the motion there is just to simply raise the price up to from whatever it was, 145 to 152? Well, I mean, to get it on the record, I guess, is what.
I'd like to amend the motion to, and I am reading from option number 2, and the increase, I'd like to amend at the end of the motion I just made for a new cultural center coordinator.
Thank you. Concurrence of the second?
Yes.
All right, very well. Okay, now we have that, discussion on the amendment? Or further discussion on the amendment? Councilman Raskin?
I ask for unanimous consent.
Unanimous consent was requested. Is there any objection? Seeing none, the motion carries. We have before us resolution number 2024-09 as amended. Further discussion?
I don't want to put the cart in front of the horse, but I need to ask this question of Ms. Springer, or maybe even Councilmember Doffett, depending. We have this in front of us for option B, which is great. But then the next item on our agenda is discussing the contract for the marketing piece, and it looks like administration is recommending a different firm. What does that look like from the city, from your perspective, Ms. Springer? Do you have a lot more time freed up with that removal, or is it going to be more of a headache, or what does that look like? Does that make sense? I know it's the next item on the agenda, but it's impacting my decision on the staffing, is what I'm asking. Does that make sense?
Ms. Springer?
Sure. So it actually, I mean, it's kind of funny. We won't be doing the direct marketing, but that doesn't mean that we aren't still marketing for Kenai. So it will take a portion of that off of our plate, but we still consider, I mean, we'll be working with that firm as well. We plan on having a very easy transition between this. The only thing that we won't have to do is build an entire new website, which we were planning on having to bring on someone extra to do that. So yes, it will relieve some of the pressure, but it's not like it would relieve an entire position's worth. We took on a lot when we took on the marketing, and we were stretched very thin, and we worked a lot of hours, which we actually all went to salary to make sure that we could cover it.
Understood. So it sounds like net effect, this will help maybe focus and get some of these things done that we have on our plate. You know, to focus on the other headache that might be more suited for a digital company, if that makes sense. I know it's a separate, the next one on the list, but I wanted to make sure we're on the same page. Sounds good.
Correct.
Vice Mayor Knoxon?
Yeah, I probably have to have you go back and cover some ground. We just made a motion based on the packet that I have, and I've got to lay down, and the numbers are different, like I say, and I'm not sure they're not, because there's an ask and a cost. An ask and costs are not $7,000, and maybe we just talked about that, but $7,000 isn't in there, which is really kind of the ask. It's the other ask.
So the cost, I wanted to show how much the chamber pays in total, and the ask is what we are asking for through the resolution.
Yeah, I'm still not getting it, and he's trying to help me here. The ask that you're trying to get us to increase is $26,000 according to this for option.
The ask numbers match, so option one matches the ask for A, the ask for B is the same as option two, and C is the same as option three.
And Henry, between,
I'm just trying to follow the numbers, and it's still not making sense
so
to me.
between B and C, she's changing the hours.
Oh,
Not the cost of the hours.
okay,
Not the cost of the hours, but the hours.
okay. Dedicated hours. All right. So it's consistent.
Right, and that's internal to what they're doing,
Right.
not necessarily what we're approving in amount to them to perform the management, and additionally, 20 hours per week for a cultural coordinator. Further discussion?
Thank you, I had to get that nailed down.
One last
Councilor
question.
Daniel.
Just to follow up on this, with that cost and ask, really, if this is awarded for $152,480, you could fill whatever positions you wanted, technically. That's just these are the positions you're looking at doing with that dollar amount, but if that didn't pan out for some reason, you could hire 2 administrative assistants, that made sense. We're not pigeonholing you into something. We're just giving you this dollar amount to do that.
I will let you know that I am going to plan or follow this plan exactly how it is structured. Honestly,
Right.
so.
No, I'm just saying if something happened, you could make a change if you needed to. It's not like.
If I needed to, but I do not foresee that happening. I
Got
have
it.
literally, if you picture somebody with like red strings on the wall trying to figure out every scenario, that has been me trying to make sure that the visitor center and the chamber run appropriately with the right amount of staff without burning people out.
Got it. Awesome. Thank you.
Mhm.
Further discussion?
What-
Councilman, Vice Mayor next.
Yeah, one more question, just to be sure through administration, that we're probably going to increase the amount of the contract, and, let's say, that it takes you 8 months, it takes the chamber 8 months to find this person. So we're not gonna be, giving the money in advance because it's part of the contract, or will that only occur once that person has been hired and moving forward? Is that pieced out?
Mr. Ross?
Vice Mayor, well, this contract, I think, takes effect at the end of June, and so I would anticipate they would be ready at the end of June to move forward.
Vice Mayor next.
I would anticipate so, but if they don't?
Mr. Ross?
Well, I think the contract you're approving is for the 152,480, asking for, so I would expect maybe that if they couldn't produce that, then they would reduce the bill to the lower rate.
I already have an offer letter ready if this is approved.
Thank you, I just had to ask the question.
Just one quick follow-up, just glancing at this, I haven't had a lot of time to spend, I just wonder if I'm looking at it right. You have one of your employees, Julia Floyd, would be knocked 10 hours if we would have taken option A, is that, if I'm reading that correctly? Because in option B and C, she's still at 40 hours a week.
Yes, that's correct, because like I said, you'd have to adjust for who runs the visitor center appropriately. So we have to make sure all those shifts are covered.
Okay.
There's a lot of moving parts to make sure that, especially in the summer, there's full coverage on that side.
She's one of your employees, current employees,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
So under this scenario, we have her still at 40 hours a week?
Yes.
Under option B, okay. Very good. Councilmember Sonart.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. So to continue this conversation about Ms. Floyd, yes, she would still be at 40 hours a week, for option 3 or option 2, B or C. But her hourly wage goes down with option B. And I don't know if it's appropriate to ask, but would we lose her? I mean, like if we went with option B and then all of a sudden she gets cut, I guess, okay, maybe the question would be better asked, is option C an increase for her?
So I will let you know, so in option A and option B, it's because there's less duties for that position as a visitor service representative, and the actual plan for Julia is to move into the administrative assistant role after, because she's been in the visitor service role for over 6 months now, and so she would be moving into the administrative assistant role, and I'd be getting a new visitor service representative, but that person in option C would have more responsibilities, which is why I increased the price.
Thank you.
Further discussion on resolution number 2024-09 as amended. Councilman Vice Mayor, next then.
Thanks. I want to ask a question I've already asked, if that's okay. Option A and B, and by going to option B, and it's a lesser amount, is that going to hamstring your operation and what you have in mind to do, or is that going to work sufficiently? I mean, you kind of said it would, either would be fine, but could you just talk about the two again?
Sure. I believe that either option would work. Honestly, I think between 20 and 30 hours isn't going to make a drastic difference as far as the productivity. It would mean, again, that the visitor service rep would probably assist more with some of the, back end or even some of the data entry. As far as I'm concerned, that's kind of my idea for that. But I don't think it's going to disrupt the plan of operations.
Any further discussion?
Request unanimous consent.
Unanimous consent was requested. There's resolution number 2024-09 is amended. Is there any objection? Seeing none, resolution number 2024-09 is adopted. Thank you, Ms. Springer. Brings us to resolution number 2024-10, awarding a contract for City of Kenai Tourism and Marketing Services. Pleasure, council. Vice Mayor Nakstad.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve resolution 2024-10.
Second.
Is there anybody from the general public that would like to speak to resolution number 2024-10? Seeing nobody here or online. Bring back to council. Comments, deliberation from council. Vice Mayor Nakstad.
I was wondering if administration might have any comments on
Mr. Ross.
what we're getting.
Vice Mayor, through the mayor, so I was not part of the review panel, but as I understand, Agnew Beck has a presence in Soldotna, an office here locally. They do work for other local governments. They're experienced in that field. We have discussed this process with the chamber. I was in a meeting where we discussed this, and they're supportive of us and feel like they can be very helpful in us moving forward with Agnew Beck.
Further discussion?
Request unanimous consent.
Thank you. Unanimous consent was requested.
If you can hear me in chambers, I've lost audio. I've lost audio. If somebody has moved something around on microphones, please check the audio.
back on the record. Ms. Sander, do we need to repeat that entire amendment? Okay, very good. So, I know that, I don't know if we got a second, or did we get a second to that? I didn't hear it either,
I
so,
will second.
okay. A second by Councilmember Doffett. Was that unanimous consent requested, or was?
Yeah.
Okay, unanimous consent was requested. So I guess I'll enter any, discussion on the amendment. Seeing none, unanimous consent was requested. Is there any objection? Seeing none, we have ordinance, no, that's approved. We have ordinance number 3392-2024 is amended before us. Councilmember, or Vice Mayor Knoxon.
Thank you, Mayor. In our laydown, we have another, motion amendment, from our planner. And it's kind of a cleanup. I'll go ahead and make that motion. I move to amend section 3, Kenai Municipal Code 1422-010, land use table for residential, townhouses, commercial, automotive service stations, and industrial automotive repair under the working waterfront WW zoning district by deleting reference to footnote 32.
I'll second.
Discussion on the motion?
I think it would be most appropriate for the planner to explain that one for us.
To the, acting city manager, Ms. Mitchell, would you like to, just for the record,
Sure,
thank you.
not a problem. Thank you, Vice Mayor Naxted, and through the acting city manager. So the housekeeping for this one was when we were drafting this, we added a footnote 32 that referenced maritime uses and so forth. And I think the original intent was just to really apply it to storage yards. However, I applied it to all these automotive services. So at the end, we don't want automotive service-related uses or the townhomes to be restricted to only maritime-related uses. So the cleanup is just best to remove that footnote 32 from these 3 land uses. And happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions of Ms. Mitchell? Thank you. Seeing none, bring it back to council. Discussion on the motion. Seeing no other deliberation, clerk, please call the roll.
Did we ask, I thought I heard unanimous, was there?
No, I didn't hear it. You can
Well, I thought I did, but then request unanimous consent.
Very good. Unanimous consent was requested.
I heard it that time.
Is there any objection to unanimous consent? Seeing none, the motion is approved. Further discussion on ordinance number 3392-2024 is amended. Vice Mayor Naxton.
Yeah, I'd like to just, I'd like to thank Planning and Zoning for all the work that they did, and as well as the Harbor Commission on this. And, as, you know, the author, or partial author on this anyway, I chose to not go to Planning and Zoning, for the work sessions and their work sessions and whatnot, just to let them do their work. And they certainly did come up with a few more amendments than I anticipated that they would. But I think that's good. It kind of elevates things and makes us talk about particularly the land use table the most. And I think that was really the only thing that was recommended was some changes to the land use table. In our work session today, at least one of the planners was there and present to kind of give us some feedback. But we went through the entire land use table of the new section and discussed each item, not only the ones that the Planning and Zoning had recommended to be altered, but you know, we did the whole thing. And I believe that it's important not to. I appreciate what the Planning and Zoning did, but I think also it's important to uphold what we told the public as we went through the whole process, that we're going to protect existing uses that are already down there, and also support kind of a variety of type of businesses that might be in there, and that's what the ordinance as written does. I think that we might have a few amendments though to kind of help that out after having our work session today. So I thought I'd just kind of retire myself here for a moment. Anybody has some amendments they would like to make?
Councilmember Doffett?
Yes, I'd like to propose an amendment to the one-family dwelling, single-family dwelling, to change it from just a C to an S/C. That way it's no more restrictive than it was when the previous landowners may have purchased those properties.
I'll second that.
For clarification, you're referring to the land use table?
Yes, the land use table, 14-22, under working waterfront, it's currently is recommended for just a C, and I would like to add S, which is a secondary use. So it'd be similar to the CMU, where it'd be an S/C.
And for clarification, there's under the current, under heavy industrial, under S2, there's a footnote 2. Is your intention to carry the footnote 2 or just S?
I'll have to look at footnote 2.
Sorry, can I clarify? You're amending the residential section, the one-family dwelling?
Yes,
Okay.
very first line item under land use, under residential, one-family dwelling, it would be,
To delete,
yeah,
to add
to
S
add
to the
S
current C.
and /C.
Yes, thank you.
So just to, like CMU's next to it would be like a S and a C.
Okay.
I'll have to look at footnote.
The footnote states that it's the, single residence, which is part of the main building. I think that's acceptable to leave in.
I guess I could have a question for staff.
Hang on just a minute, Ms. Tanner.
I don't see the footnote in the proposed legislation that you are referring to. It's in the industrial
building.
heavy, it's in the blue.
I guess a question for, I think where we're going with this, Ms. Mitchell through the acting city manager, whether that would be appropriate to carry the footnote over to that column under working waterfront. Ms. Mitchell?
Thank you for that question, Mayor Gabriel. So I would not recommend carrying over that footnote 2. However, I would suggest to modify footnote 1 of the second sentence of footnote 1 to carry over, adding a new footnote 33 to say commercial industrial, which falls under the landscaping and site plan requirements of KMC Chapter 14.25, shall include any secondary uses in the landscaping and site plan. The reason for that is when it comes to landscape and site plan requirements, it does not apply to single family. So what I'm suggesting is adding a footnote that secondary uses of single family residential would be required and subject to a landscape requirement. I think it's consistent. So therefore, that would be my recommendation, is to not carry over the 2, but to add a footnote 33, which would be the second sentence of footnote 1. Hopefully that's clear.
Let's take a brief at ease, and then we can maybe rally and get that on there. Okay. Back on record, Councilmember Doffett.
Yes, so I would like to go back on the record with an amendment for on chapter 1422 land use table, under one family dwelling, under the working waterfront, to change to a S with and a /C, and on the footnote on top of the secondary use, or the S, we'll make a new footnote, which will include footnote 33, and it will read, commercial or industrial which falls under landscaping site plan requirements of KMC Chapter 1425 shall include any secondary uses in the landscaping and site plan. There's one.
Yeah, concurrence of the second.
Second.
So what we did there is we amended the amendment essentially to allow for the new language requiring the site plan, landscape plan.
Request unanimous consent.
Thank you. Discussion on the motion? Unanimous consent was requested. Is there any objection? Seeing none, the motion is adopted, or the amendment is approved. Vice Mayor, next then.
Thank you. Just gonna move ahead. Under miscellaneous, bed and breakfasts. I move to change the P to a C.
Second.
Discussion on the motion?
The general purpose for that is a bed and breakfast could be a house or something like that, so it puts a little bit more, insight or control over that. So I would recommend that change, obviously. Request unanimous consent.
Thank you. Any other discussion on the amendment? Unanimous consent was requested. Is there any objection? Seeing none, the motion is approved. Further discussion on ordinance number 3392-2024 is amended before us. Vice Mayor Nexton.
Thank you, Mayor. Under public institutions, hospitals, move to change the P to a C.
Second.
And that was just based on our conversations, a meeting during the work session. Once again, to allow some, it's approved, but it would have to go through a conditional use permit. Request unanimous consent.
Any further discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, unanimous consent was requested. Is there an objection? Seeing none, the motion is approved. Any more discussion on ordinance number 3392-2024 as amended before us?
I guess it might be a question for staff. I don't know if it's something we need to do a footnote for or not, or it might already exist under communication towers and antennas. It's conditional now. Do we need to do a footnote for a specific type of towers that would be permitted, as far as more of the disguise style towers, or is that something that staff would like to just amend themselves?
Through the acting city manager, Ms. Mitchell.
Thank you, Councilmember Doffett. So I think what's best, staff would revise that code section to reflect that we want to stealth towers or concealments of antennas.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on ordinance number 3392-2024 as amended before us? Councilmember Daniel.
Yes, one more amendment, sorry. I'd like to amend section 3 of the KMC 1422-0110 land use table for miscellaneous daycare centers under the working waterfront WW zone district by deleting P for principal permitted use and inserting C for conditional use.
What was that again? I'm sorry, I didn't.
I was reading on the sheet, sorry, that's why. So the daycare centers, changing it from P to a C.
Oh, very good. Is there a second? Is there a second on the motion?
Yes, I'll second.
Good discussion on the motion?
Request unanimous consent.
Thank you. Unanimous consent was requested. Is there any objection? Seeing none, the amendment is approved. Further discussion on ordinance number 3392-2024 as amended before us. Seeing none, I'd like to just echo. We have another one? Anybody? I give you a minute here. While you guys are doing that, I guess I would just like to recognize our planning and zoning department. Ms. Mitchell, our planning and zoning director, and her work to put this together, and obviously Councilmember Naxted, who sponsored this to further the vision that we started a while ago to see this develop into. Hey, can we keep our deliberation public here? Okay. Anyway, commending our staff and Councilmember Naxted for moving this forward. And hopefully we'll see that this positive outcome of this legislation in the future. Councilmember Askin.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. I move that, we amend Section C, Municipal Code 1422-010, miscellaneous nursing convalescent or rest homes from, P to C conditional.
Is there a second? Is there a second on the motion?
I'll second for discussion.
Discussion on the motion? Ms. Askin, Councilmember Askin?
I think that nursing convalescent or rest home, marginally applies to wanting to do a revitalization with shops and stuff in that area. But, it may be something conditionally that we would approve.
Further discussion? Vice Mayor Naxton.
Thank you, Mayor. In this particular case, I'd like to, I'm not disagreeing, I'd just like to hear from our planner. I believe she recommended it to be permitted there, and perhaps the reasoning and the consistency, or if conditional use might be more appropriate.
To the acting city manager, Ms. Mitchell.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Naxted, and through the acting city manager. So I placed this as a P because I see it as a home. The use is what makes a difference, right? So if it looks like a home from the exterior, I didn't see that from a planning perspective. I saw that could be integrated as a community. In my line of work, I have a passion for integrating generations in areas, and so I saw the need for that to be permitted so we can make it look like a home. Who lives inside of it, who's there. For me, personally, as planner, I didn't see it needing to be a conditional use permit, and that's why I recommended it to be permitted.
Thank you. Further discussion on the motion? Councilmember Askin.
I'll withdraw the motion.
Make concurrence of the second.
Second.
I think Councilmember, or Vice Mayor Naxted had seconded that for discussion, so do you have concurrence to withdraw? Okay, very good, the motion's withdrawn. So we have ordinance number 3392-2024 as amended before us. Further discussion. Councilmember Dawson.
I guess, the only last one up for discussion, I would like to propose removing, under storage yards, specific.
What sections are it under?
It's under industrial. It's kind of on the last page page 4. We have a footnote 32 that limits storage yards in that area to only be a conditional use for maritime. And I would like to move that to just eliminate that and just allow it to be a conditional use for storage yards. Remove the 32 footnote on that specifically.
Fair second.
I'll second it, unanimous.
Would you like to speak to the amendment, Mr. Councilmember Daffett?
Yes, and the reason behind this is with all the different options we've given for possible conditional uses and permitted uses, from airports to automotive repair and these kind of things, I could see where if we approved one conditional use permit, some other of these types of businesses could utilize a storage yard, and by having them not being able to have a storage yard if it didn't store only boats, I think would pigeonhole them too much. And so if we're going to allow a possibility of a conditional use permit for an automotive repair or some kind of float plane basin or airstrip of some kind or anything like that could be possibly permitted, I could see under another conditional use to allow the storage yard to accompany those businesses would be a good option. And that's where it's still a conditional use. They still have to show that it fits within the scheme of things, but by eliminating maritime only, I think that opens up more uses for those storage yards and allows more of these businesses to possibly be able to grow.
Councilmember Nexus?
I think this is a good one to discuss. I think that it's appropriate to have the footnote 32 in that there are existing storage yards out there that aren't maritime, and those would get to continue because they exist. There's storage for a trucking company and several others, and then there's some boating things. But this would be for, and they'd be covered under the conditional use portion. The 32 would be any future storage yards, and I think that I like to be inclusive and allow lots of things to happen, but I think allowing a storage yard in a waterfront area for a new thing that's not, there's a moose over the window there, excuse me, kind of eerie. It looks like somebody's looking in here. But that any new storage yard could be kind of large or whatever. By taking the footnote 32 off there, it wouldn't be conducive to the waterfront itself. I'm not completely with you on it.
Councilmember Askin?
I agree with Henry, from the standpoint that I would hate to see, we already have auto repair and manufacturing already as conditional use, that if we allowed a storage yard with vehicles, I think it would detract.
Councilmember Daniel?
I guess that 32 versus no 32 argument, if it's a conditional use permit, you can still approve or deny it if it's, in harmony with the area. So I'm trying to understand what the value is of of adding that maritime use piece to it. If you come through and you have a conditional use permit that makes sense, and great, but if it doesn't, then it wouldn't fit in the plan, then it would get voted down. So I guess I'm just struggling with that, that's all.
Councilmember Daffett?
Yeah, with the 32 footnote, I guess would be a possible question for staff. If we remove the 32 footnote, they can still do marine use, but there's no size restriction on a storage yard, I guess would be a good definition I'd be looking for. When we say storage yard, is there a size restriction, or could we have a half-acre storage yard? I guess that'd be my question for staff.
Ms. Mitchell, through the acting city manager?
Thank you, Councilmember Dossett, and through the acting city manager. I'm not aware of a size limit when it comes to storage yard, but I would like to at least clarify how the land use is applied. This is saying the storage yard is a principal use. If someone just came down to the waterfront and says, I just want a storage yard. But I think to address your concern, Councilmember Dossett, is, all these other uses, a storage yard is an accessory. That's not an issue here. That's a concern why 32 footnote is assuming the primary and principal use is a storage yard, nothing else. So that 32 restricted to maritime-related use.
Based on that statement, I'll go ahead and rescind my motion.
Concurrence of the second.
I concur.
Yes. Yeah, that was Councilman.
I concur as well, thank you.
Too many
Yeah, very good. And I agree, I was just gonna make that point. I think that we're sort of striking that balance of how we wanna see this develop, and I think that by keeping that in there, I think that helps us keep, I think there's a finite number of space to try to fit in. We'd like to see that vision. Anyway, it's kind of at that point now, so. Further discussion on ordinance number 3392-2024 as amended before us. Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Sonert,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nakstad,
Yes?
Councilmember Daniel,
Yes.
Mayor Gabriel,
Yes.
Councilmember Askin,
Yes.
Councilmember Dossett,
Yes.
Councilmember Baisden,
Yes.
Student Representative Tanner.
Yes.
You have 7 yes votes. Ordinance 3392-2024 is enacted as amended.
Thank you. That brings us to item G8, discussion scheduling city council, or council employee evaluations. As you guys know, we usually, do our employee evaluation of the city attorney, city clerk, city manager around, last half of, April. So we want to get your calendars out and set a time where we can, probably do that. So, and just, I know we've got a new council member here, and just the process, and then maybe to just refresh everybody's mind about how we do this. Ms. Randall will send out a rating form for each of our, employees that you'll get, via email. We'll ask, that you get that back to her by April 12th. I think we agreed on it's about 3-week time. She'll have that outlined in the email that she gives you. Once she gets those back, she compiles the composite scores from each council member. Any comments that you have related to the employees get incorporated into that document. And then we give the employees that document about a week before we schedule the interview. So the idea is that they have a chance to look at it and can respond to, the rating or the comments made on the form. And then after that week period that they have a chance to review it, we actually do this sit down with the employees, and that's the part we're trying to schedule now. We ask that we get these back to her by the 12th. That gives her a little bit of time to compile the document. I'll be gone until I think the 14th or something, but what we're looking at here is somewhere about, after like the 17th, so basically the last, 2.5 weeks of April, so.
Yeah. Mayor, I'll be out of town, after the 22nd of April.
Okay.
If any time the previous week works, would be great for me. That's just me.
And what we've done in the past is we've done the 17th, we have a council meeting on the 17th where we'll be able to, we could do a couple, or we can do it before, they're generally done in, executive session, although the employee can ask to have them in open session, but generally they're executive session. And what I understand, if we push up against our council meeting, we can stop, have our council meeting, and then go back into executive session to continue if we need be. So, generally, I would say we would want to schedule about an hour per employee. They don't have to be at the same day, no. And the way we've generally done it in the past is the city attorney and city clerk usually on one day and the city manager on another day or separate time, so.
Usually practice on the attorney and the clerk first.
Yeah.
Spitballing ideas. If we did the seventeenth, possibly like a 4 o'clock, do the two of them, and then the second work for another one for the city manager, then would you be back by the second? Or, well, I skipped all the way to October, disregard.
Or the May first, rather?
First, sorry.
Yeah. That won't work. How about if we did two prior to our 17th, like at 4, if we schedule at 4 p.m. on the 17th, and then, go the next day on the 18th at like 5 o'clock? Ms. Councilman Raskin?
Do we need 3 weeks to complete the evaluation?
That just gives you time to do it. No, you can turn it in right away if you want.
No, I know, but do we all need 3 weeks, or we can maybe move it back a week?
Yeah, I mean, if we can get these in, yeah, I won't be back, let's see, I think I get back like the 12th.
I'm okay with 7. I'd be fine with 2 on the 17th, 1 after 5, as long as it's after 5.
On the 18th?
What if, I mean, make for a late day, but then 2 before and 1 after? Apparently not, never mind.
I can tell you're a newbie.
Does that work for everybody to,
Punishment.
schedule the city attorney, city clerk, prior, or on the, starting at 4 p.m. on the 17th, and then, we can go, did you say after 5 o'clock? So 5?
I could be here, as long as it's not before 5. I could be here
Okay.
by 5, but getting here at 4:30, 2 days in a row would be.
Well, if we're only doing one, we could probably do it as late as 6 too, so if that's better.
Can we split the difference at 5:30?
5:30? Okay. Is there any objection to that? Sound good, Councilmember Basin?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, very good. So, as I said, Ms. Randall will be sending everybody out an email with directions and, time frame to get those back. Thank you, Council, for that. That brings us to Commission Committee Reports, Council on Aging.
That's probably me. I don't have anything to share. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Councilmember Basin. Airport Commission?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm shuffling the many papers I have on my desk here. The Airport Commission met on March 14th. They had a work session prior to the meeting to discuss proposed goals for this year. And they came up with quite a long list of them, and they weren't able to complete what they needed to complete that night. So they're going to schedule at their next meeting to go over it. They got a list, but they don't have the methods of how they're going to accomplish that, and some of those might need to be refined down after talking with the clerk here. And the regular meeting, they had a discussion. They recommended council the changes to Municipal Code 2120 Airport Commission and Chapter 190 Standards for Boards, Commissions, and Committees. They also recommended the council change to the location of the airport commission meetings back to council chambers here from the airport, which I appreciate. They also had a discussion recommendation recommending the council enact ordinance 34003 2024, amending sections of Kenai Municipal Code chapters 2110, leasing. That's what we talked about tonight. So they recommended that. They also had a discussion item recommending council adoption of a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a bar and lounge concession, which we also discussed tonight. And their next meeting will be April 11th.
Thank you, Harbor Commission.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. Harbor Commission met on March 11th for a work session. They reviewed their annual work plan, and the next meeting is April 8th.
Thank you, Parks and Recreation Commission.
Parks and Rec met on March 7th, was not a regular meeting, it was a work session, and they discussed their commission's annual work plan, and they discussed the benefits of creating a master plan from which to work with, and lots of discussion on the pros and cons of whether a master plan could or should be homegrown, or or purchasing the efforts of a professional to come in and write a master plan. They also discussed budget, staffing, overtime, and performance measures, department goals, and future considerations.
Thank you. Planning and Zoning Commission?
I was out of town and was not able to log in for that one.
Councilmember Raskin?
I filled in for, Mr. Doffett that night. They had three, issues. Momsen, subdivision, they recommended denial on a preliminary plat. They were wanting to vacate a property line, and it was also a water main, and so they denied that. And then they approved another vacation with Pelch Homestead Edition, and allowed a conditional use permit for an RV park at 813 Riverview Drive. It's in Old Town, and it will only hold 5 motorhomes. And that was their meeting.
Thank you. Beautification Committee?
Nothing new to report. The next meeting is on the 9th of April.
Thank you. Under report of the mayor, just real quickly, wanted to remind everybody about the Meals on Wheels pie auction on April 6th over at the Senior Center, and maybe a question or ask administration. I know, well, I hate to throw this at you, but wondering when we could schedule or should be thinking about scheduling a budget work session, and would that be possibly on our next agenda, just to, it's on our next agenda. Okay. You guys are ahead of me. Very good. And with that, we'll go to administration reports. City Manager, Acting City Manager, Mr. Ross.
Mr. Mayor, Council, I just have a couple things. Just to remind you all, the Employee Appreciation Day event is April 26th at 6 p.m. at the Kenai Senior Center, if any of you are able to attend. State of the City at the Kenai Chamber Business Luncheon is on Wednesday, April 17th. I think City Manager Eubank and the Mayor will be presenting at that. The City Manager is planning to attend the Alaska Infrastructure Development Symposium. I think it's a grant symposium in Anchorage on April 4th and 5th. And as far as current recruitment, we have a public safety dispatcher open, and then there's lots of summer hire positions open right now. So if you know anybody interested in those, between the parks and the police department and the PU fishery, we're advertising for all those positions. And lastly, the City Manager will be back in the office next Monday.
Any questions of the Acting City Manager, Mr. Ross? Vice Mayor Nexton.
I was reading today's Clarion, and there's a city advertisement in there, a notice of competitive land purchase application, a Mumpson subdivision. Don't see those very often. You know what acreage or, you think you could, it's public information, I suppose, so.
Acting City Manager, Mr. Ross.
To the Vice Mayor, I'm going to have to defer to somebody else in the room because I'm not familiar with that. I don't know if the city planner knows what that is.
Ms. Mitchell, I see you pop your light on there.
Yes, thank you, Vice Mayor Nexted. So, planning and zoning process those land and lease applications. So, there are 2 parcels involved. One is approximately 70 acres, and the other one to the west, I couldn't tell you. I'm trying to pull it up as we speak right now. So that's the approximate size. 2 parcels, probably 80 acres, or 80 to 90 acres total. They would consolidate it and then subdivide it for single-family development. And right now, the notice requirement requires 30 days to be published to receive any competitive bids. And so, as of this date, I have not received anything yet, but I will keep you all posted.
Is there a minimum bid on that, Ms. Mitchell?
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. No.
Any further questions of the Acting City Manager, Mr. Ross? See, now I'll go to the City Attorney, Mr. Bloom.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel, and members of council. I don't have any comments, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of the city attorney? Seeing none, we'll go to the city clerk, Ms. Sainer.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel, City Council members. Attached to your laydown tonight was the final report from the voter turnout working group. I am available for questions if you have any.
Were you a part of the working group here, Ms. Sainer?
Yes, you guys
Yes.
appointed me.
I know. I just say the working group instead of our working group. I'm sorry, I wanted to just clarify, make sure, because I knew we'd done it. Thank you for that, and I will get a chance to, go through it, and, appreciate that. Any questions of the city clerk, Ms. Sainer? Seeing none, we'll go to additional public comment. Is there anybody from the general public that would like to speak to the council at this time? Ms. Springer?
I totally forgot 3 things, and I'm really sorry, because I know this has gone really long. I just wanted to let everybody know that the visitor guide has been completely updated for Kenai and has been submitted to the printers. So it is going to be a complete new visitor guide, and it should be done in April. And we did include multiple things that were not in there for the city of Kenai previously, such as like city of Kenai events and other things that we thought were missing, and some more relocation information. And then also, we received 2 Alaska Airlines tickets and a winery tour from J. Lore. We're going to be using that as a fundraiser to try and do the improvements on the Moose Meat John cabin. So we're going to start that fundraiser in April and end it in September, and hoping that will raise enough money to get a bunch of the stuff done for that. And also, I will not be here in April. I will be gone March 30th through April 12th. So I'll be back for the city of Kenai's State of the City, but I'll be out of country.
Oh. Any questions of Ms. Springer? Thank you, Samantha.
And thank you, guys.
Is there anybody else from the general public that would like to address the council at this time? Seeing none, we'll go to council comments. I'll start with you, Mr. Bazin, so you can do your comments and then check out. Appreciate you hanging in there. Councilmember Bazin.
Well, Ms. Springer said this meeting went very long. It's only 1 o'clock on the East Coast, so I'm enjoying myself. I'm in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia. I've toured 15 states, and I've driven about 8,000 miles, and I'm coming home on Sunday. So thanks for letting me log in tonight. Hey, I only got one thing. Kenai Central High School cheerleading team, they repeated as state champions last night, 4 times in a row for them. And a young lady by the name of Sarah Bazin was selected to the all-tournament team. Very proud of those athletic women and their accomplishments. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you, Councilmember Bazin. Student Representative Tanner.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. For Connections, March 26th through 28th, 2 staff will represent Connections at the Skills USA Conference in Fairbanks. Skills USA is a career technical student organization that supports students interested in industry. Next year, enrollments for Connections will begin on April 1st, and AK STAR testing will take place during the first week of April. Also, Connections student Sheilon Tanner was the only student in Alaska to win the Carson Scholarship. So I was very excited and thankful to receive that honor. For Kenai Alternative High School on March 19th, 2 students that are on the SoHi cheer team, they competed at the state tournament. I was not able to get the results off of ASAA's site, but I will report their results at the next meeting. March 25th and April 1st, the Independent Living Center will meet with students interested in a summer internship position. And during the final week of March, students will take the School Climate and Mindset Survey, which will allow them to measure and monitor specific elements of the school culture. And then on April 3rd, representatives from the KBBSD Middle College program will meet with prospective students at Kenai Alternative High School. For Kenai Central High School, spring sports have started. It kind of started right after spring break. March 19th, the cheer team competed at the state championship. As Councilmember Basin said, they took first place. Congratulations to them. They did an amazing job. And on March 20th through the 23rd will be the basketball state championships in Anchorage. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tanner. Councilmember Sawyer.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. Beware the Ides of March, everyone. No, seriously, happy spring.
Councilmember Askin.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. Congratulations, Student Representative Tanner. I don't have anything. Happy spring.
Thank you, Councilmember Daniel.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep this theme up. I'm ready to go home. You guys have a good night.
Councilmember
Oh,
Dodd.
let's see what I can talk about. You guys saved all the time. No. I'd just like to remind everybody to get out there and get your tickets if you haven't already for the Senior Center coming up. 007 is the theme, so I expect to see some good outfits. And, I'm somewhat glad to be back, but I'm glad to see it's melting.
Vice Mayor Maxon.
Yep, I'll keep it short, kinda, but, during the Airport Commission work session, they were looking for things to, to talk about, but one of the things that they couldn't put on their list was airport maintenance, because it's so good. They just kept talking about how great the snow removal was this winter, and these are guys that fly and use the airport for other ways too, and, they were very, very pleased with how the airport is being managed. So I wanted to pass that on, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Tonight we have no executive session or pending items. Seeing no other business before this body, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.